Welcome to The Cleaning, a podcast about Apple TV Plus's show Silo. My name's Bubba, and today we're talking about Season 2, Episode 7, The Dive. Lukas is assigned a mission. Mechanical sends a powerful message. Juliette embarks on a perilous descent and confronts a new danger. On the podcast, we're going to do everything we usually do, rank the episode, better in the silo or the real world, episode breakdowns, judicial debate, musical analysis with Matt talking about rhythmic tension, a book talk section, which will have a deep dive into Juliette's deep dive, the book version versus the show version, does the show Bernard know less than book Bernard, and a Bubba rant. The one thing we won't have is co-host Catfish. We intended to record today, December 27th, 2024, but Catfish had a family emergency. I don't want to give away any private details, but it is serious. He could use all your best wishes. Remember, on Instagram and Blue Sky, he is G to the man. That's GEETOTHEMAN. G to the man on Instagram and Blue Sky. He needs all your best thoughts. So if you want to send him some love, please do. How am I going to do this podcast without him? Well, like every podcast, I always say, what do you think? I'm going to need your feedback. I'm going to need your thoughts. You're going to have to cackle like Catfish does at my terrible jokes. Hopefully this will make some sense and it'll be enjoyable. But if not, hey, go down in the YouTube comments. Tell me how we can make it better without Catfish, because this is so serious. He may miss a couple of episodes. Fingers crossed, everything can turn okay, but it is a serious family emergency with Catfish. So once again, on YouTube, leave comments. On social media, we're at double PHQ, the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters. Let us know your thoughts on this episode, on Season 2 of Silo, and any well wishes you want to send our buddy Catfish. I love asking you guys for feedback. We've already got some here on Episode 7. On Blue Sky, Gen X Cat Mom, who's at all mod cons with a Z, C-O-N-Z on Blue Sky, she said Season 2, Episode 7, she gives 9.75 double Ps. Wait a minute, double Ps? Perfect pacing. She writes, fantastic cross-cutting between the silos and the storylines. Sims and Bernard! Exclamation point. We witness a masterclass display of subtext mixed with overt aggression and two actors at the top of their games. I miss you guys calling Deputy Hank Silo Ren. Plus, Billings is doing a good cop, bad cop, all in one person. I think she's implying 9.75. That implies she loved it. Our good, true double L loyal listener, Link Hogthrob, who is also on Blue Sky at Link Hogthrob on Blue Sky. They write 8 out of 10 double S's. Wait a minute. Double S's? Oh, seething Sims. Woo! You guys really liked it. Without Catfish, he may not even get a chance to watch it for a while. Once again, fingers crossed that family emergency will turn out okay. Okay, where am I going to go? I've kind of been, I guess, lukewarm 7s the last couple episodes. Let me go ahead and give it away. I'm going to go up to 8 double W's out of 10. Yes, I'm waiting for you to ask me what double W stands for, but you probably know the double W means war where. The order, the book of the order said, in the event of a failed cleaning, prepare for war. You know, we should have read closer, because it may have said, just prepare for war, it'll never come. We're 7 episodes in, and there's no war. But 8 out of 10 is higher than recent episodes. Why? Let me start with my positives. The beginning, Gen X Cat Mom is exactly right. This beginning with those quick cutting scenes that are really building tension. We have Bernard and Lukas, which feels like it doesn't even last 2 minutes. Then we're with Knox getting the gunpowder and the bomb from Mark. Then we're with Shirley and Teddy collecting folders. I'm not even sure what those folders were for. It is keeping up the pace. It is tense. I think it's a bomb, not necessarily a rocket to shoot off a message. It is tense. Plus, there's the Chekhov's gunpowder. Knox is like, hey, Mark, where's the rest of that gunpowder? Mark doesn't want to tell him. Bernard's like, hey, I want to know more about that gunpowder. Do we have a scenario of Chekhov's gunpowder, which we need to be tracking? Very tense, very wonderful. Everybody knows that Bubba, if he's on any team, he's on Team Deputy Hank, and Hank has a moment to shine. This is wonderful. This is great. Heck yeah, Hank catches the food poisoner, the person with that blue rat poison, Hank. Chef's kiss. I'm still on Team Hank. We all know Catfish. I can't wait to see if he watches this episode and see if he's still on Team Bernard and Team Billings like he was on last week. Last week he joined Team Billings and Team Bernard, two opposite factions against each other. So I loved a lot of it. There is, only 8 out of 10. So what would have popped me up to, what would have raised my score to 10 out of 10? Well, I mentioned war, where, and a bit of that is that I do think, as wonderful as that quick cutting between scenes at the beginning of the episode was great, I wonder if the Juliette section where she's going underwater, this is really dangerous. She's going underwater and she's connecting this cable to get the water pump working in Solo's silo. That is tense, and I wonder if cutting away was the right way to go. Part of me wonders maybe we should have just stuck with that. Now, maybe the show producers are thinking, Juliette really didn't run into any trouble. Her connecting that power and starting the pump back up, that kind of went easy. A part of me, the writer in me, I always like to say, look up my IMDb credit for the script I sold, but don't watch the movie. But anyway, the scriptwriter is me like, boy, this was a bit too easy for Juliette. But then, of course, it ends with a bloody trail. Holy smokes. What's going on? Do you think Solo went batty and, tried to kill her? He dropped her elevator ride back up. He cut off her air pump. Or is something more nefarious? There are lots of shots that look like there are other people in Solo's silo. Ooh, tense. But maybe cutting away so much from Juliette, I'm not sure if it led to the tension. Now, I like to say, listeners, I read the book, and listeners, you hate when I mention the book here at the beginning of the podcast and not in the book talk section. Well, I do have to say that this is a scene directly from the book, and to me, it wasn't as tense as what was going on within the book. I'll talk about that more in the book talk section, but I may wonder if that taints my image. Now, listeners, just to remember, I think it was just last week I was saying, boy, I love this scene, I love this scene, I love this scene. They're not in the books. If you've been with us from the beginning, all those years ago, we did a Game of Thrones podcast, and both Catfish and I had read the first novel, A Game of Thrones, and we knew the big twist with main character Ned at the end of the first novel. And I watched that episode knowing what would happen, and I still got caught up in the excitement of it. So the fact that I wasn't 100% caught up in the excitement of, oh my Lord, what's happening to Juliette? Because that is a huge shock. That's maybe why I'm only 8 out of 10. If you haven't read the book, once again, give me comments. Tell me how you felt, how tense you were, how freaked out you were when Juliette, rushes to the surface, get ready for the bends, and yet there's nobody there. There's blood. What the hell has happened? Because if you're higher than me, I hope everybody liked it higher than me. We know the 2 ratings we got from our double L's, Gen X Cat Mom and Link Hogthrob, were higher than me. If you're higher than me, please go down in the comments, reach out to me, and let us know. Now, I love to say we are so close to 10,000 subscribers, which was our goal for this year. And there was a part of me last week when people were like, Bubba and Catfish, why don't you podcast about Severance now that Severance Season 2 is about to start up? There's a part of me that says, well, if we get to 10,000 subscribers, maybe we'll do Severance. But really, it's just, you heard a lot of talk of the algorithm in this episode of Silo. There's a lot of talk of algorithm on YouTube and podcasts. So if you subscribe, it helps our algorithm. So I can't promise we're going to do Severance. With all that talk about Severance, we had this great feedback from a listener named Antonio De Lucas, who wrote, is Parsec Passion going to review Star Wars Skeleton Crew? And this, Antonio, let me say, I feel terrible about. So we created a podcast feed, audio podcast feed, and they're here on YouTube too, of Catfish and I breaking down every live-action Star Wars show. And we've covered every episode of every Star Wars live-action show, but we didn't tackle Skeleton Crew. Now, why didn't we? Number one, I was a bit afraid. So they always said this is going to be like the Goonies in Star Wars. And as a kid, I didn't like the movie The Goonies. Now, the good news is Skeleton Crew, I've seen all 5 episodes, and it's a really good it's better than The Goonies. It's really good. So I feel terrible that we're not covering it on our Parsec Passion podcast feed. But know that Catfish and I are over the moon about Andor, and Andor Season 2 coming up in April. We're going to cover it. We feel bad. This time of year, it was just rough. Now, this is unrelated to Catfish's current family emergency, but Catfish was also in the hospital for a little bit here in the back half of 2024. So I kind of thought maybe just doing one podcast about Silo would be safer for us. So if you're upset about anything, let us know. We want to please you guys, and we're trying to please you guys as best we can. But please go down in the comments on YouTube. Let us know. Hit us up on social media at PHQ. If you have other shows besides Severance, let's hear them. I know I do my Let's Solve Murder Mystery series. If you know a good whodunit that's coming out soon, let me know, and I'll see if I have time in my ridiculous schedule to tackle that as well. All right. You know what time it is. That's right, Catfish, you're not here, but it's time for, is it better here in the silo or in our real world? Is it worse in the silo and better in the real world? Based on this episode, Season 2, Episode 7, The Dive, which is better? Well, for me, I wrote these notes and I said, I think this episode makes me think of some things. Now, it's the holidays here in 2024 when I'm recording this. We just had Christmas if you celebrate. I celebrate Christmas, and so literally today, the 27th, all this week, I've had family members forcing me or guilting me to do chores or to do them some favor. I literally got a text just about an hour ago from somebody saying, hey, can you pick me up at 9:30 tomorrow morning and drive me 20 miles away because they're visiting from out of town? And it's like, oh, my Lord. And so that's when I thought, well, in Silo 17, Solo Silo, people are also guilting you and forcing you to do things like do deep dives into the water to fix a water pump. So where is it better, here in our real world or in the silo? So I got to be honest, the guilt trip that my parents give me is the worst. So I'm going into the silo. It's better there. Solo can have his hissy fit, but I'll still be happier rather than having that guilt trip hit on me. So that's my thought. What do you think? Do you think episode 7, it was better in the silo or better in our real world? Let us know. Okay, let's dive into the episode. And you know, if Catfish was here, I'd be asking him, well, Catfish, which part of this do you want to tackle? Do you want to tackle Juliette's storyline, maybe some of the up top, the Sims political drama? What do you want to tackle? And so we always tackle the things, the story maybe we weren't engaged with the most first. And so I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump to the storyline that I just didn't connect with the most this episode, and I'm not sure I always connect with it too much. But that's the Sims family drama between Rob Sims, and Camille. And in this episode, I mentioned especially at the beginning, there's cutting, tension. There's rockets being shot up the center of the silo. There's tension everywhere. And then we cut to someplace not tense at all. Rob flipping pancakes. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can tell by looking at me, I love pancakes. Oh, well, maybe it is a tense scene. Maybe this is a tense scene. What if Rob burns the pancakes? Not quite so. Not quite as tense as any other scene in this episode. Now, of course, Anthony Sims, Little Sims Jr., he's not in a good place. He's been freaking out. And you would freak out. The power's gone out. You know, your parents are disappearing all the time. They're certainly never in a good mood. So, Anthony Sims, I understand why you're not in a great place. His mom's trying to tell him, hey, listen, the power cut was a glitch. But we got to talk about this. To cheer him up, to make him feel safer, Sims has given his son a red level relic, the Pez dispenser. Mind blown. This kid is going to tell everybody at school, hey, guess what, guys? My dad gave me this red level relic, so anytime the power goes out or we all think we're going to die, it calms me down. Sims, are you crazy? I know you are frustrated, but you cannot give a red level relic to a prepubescent. I mean, to a preteen. You just can't do it. Camille, I sends him to his room so he doesn't have to suffer through this next scene. Now, I'm being tough on this. If you like the Sims family drama, come at me and tell me I'm wrong. I can understand if you guys like it. It's just not connecting with me in this particular episode. And then Camille, she is playing both sides. She says, listen, the people of the silo, they're not just freaking out. They're impressed. It was dramatic. Of course, the snarky side of me says, it was dramatic, unlike the scenes between you and I, Rob. But Camille did not add that part. Sims is like, where's Bernard? He wants to have it out. He wants to have his double T trash talking to his face. And his wife, is like, listen, you've got to chill. You've got to chill. Let Bernard come to you. What do you guys think? Is that the right move? Like, if you go to somebody and say, let me help you, that's almost like letting them off the hook. You need them to come groveling. That's the way it feels like Camille thinks. What do you think is, if you're Sims and you have been brushed aside without question, and that's even before you have the scene with Bernard where he says, hey, buddy, I just brushed you aside. What do you think you do? Is it better to have him come groveling? Because Amundsen, oh boy, we're going to get to him in a bit, but Sims is right. Bernard needs help, and he is not getting it. So the husband and wife, they have their scene. Sims is chilling in his office later. Bernard bursts in. Bernard wants to show, he wants to show that nothing has changed in the silo. Nothing has changed. Everything's the same. We still get warrants. Just to give you a bit of reality about me, I visited Salzburg, Austria this summer on a big family reunion vacation in Salzburg, Austria. We're not Austrian, we're Scottish, but still, anyway, we went there, and that's where The Sound of Music is. And now that it's the holidays, people watch The Sound of Music all the time. The Nazi in that film, one of the Nazis in that film, it's always like, yes, we need singing. It'll show that nothing has changed in Austria now that the Third Reich has taken over. And so Bernard, I guess I am implying he is a bit of a Nazi authoritarianism. He's like, listen, I'm still going to show that I have a warrant to search for this gunpowder. It just blows up, and it blows up in a wonderfully delicious, dramatic fight. It still feels like a bit of punches were pulled. So, like, Bernard, I think, could have hit harder. But what did you guys think? Did you guys enjoy this bromance breakup? I mean, it was so good. Sims is telling Bernard, I gave you a decade of my life. If hearing more spoilers, I guess I'm revealing everything about myself now. I was in a job 15 years, which was a great job, rewarding job, not financially, but a great job, for the soul. I felt like I was doing good and all this stuff. And why did I leave after 15 years? I was like, I need money. I gotta leave. And so, of course, I didn't have this blow up with my people there. Like, why didn't you ever find a way to pay me more at this? But okay, that's enough about me. Sims is snapping. He's got Sim snaps. He's like, you made Lukas, Kyle, your shadow. Glad you have such a strong team at your side. Oh, and then the ultimate insult, chef's kiss. He calls him Bernie. Oh, boy. What would Catfish, Team Bernard, or Bernard bro think about being a Bernie bro? Man, I know we get comments of people who are also on Team Bernard. Go down to the comments. Let me know. Chef's kiss. This is wonderful. But then Bernard, I think he actually has harder punches. He's like, gee, why didn't I name you? Why didn't I name you? What could it be? What could it be? What was holding me back? You don't have curiosity. That is not the hardest punch he could have thrown about Sims. He could have thrown a lot of brutal punches about Sims. Some of you guys in the comments think Bernard could have said, your acting is pretty terrible. Sims too. We won't get into that. But Bernard's biggest punch was, yeah, what about your wife releasing the prisoners who we were framing, you were helping me frame for the murder of Judge Meadows? Yeah, I'm sure you guys talked about that. Delicious, delicious, delicious. Bernard leaves in a huff. I guess he had to leave because it was technically the judge's office, but I needed Sims to leave and say, my wife did. Later on, they're back at home. Rob is sitting in the dark. Where's Anthony? Where's Sims Jr.? He's probably like, I'm going to go play with my red level relic, Dad. You sit here in the dark. You're moody. They're not happy. And then a husband and wife tell each other, no more secrets. They repeat, no more secrets. If you think there are going to be more secrets, drink. It feels like it is. Here, I'm getting kind of excited and enjoying talking about The Sims, even though this probably was the least exciting part for me of the episodes. Did you guys like The Sims? Anthony, what'd you bring to show and tell today? I brought a red level relic my dad gave me. Your dad, the judge? The newly appointed judge? What's he doing? Why would he do that? Well, I tried to ask him, but he was sitting alone by himself in the dark, very moody and angry, so I just went out. P.S. His pancakes suck. What? Anthony, how could you? Yes, Catfish would normally interact and make that ridiculous reenactment. a bit more interesting. So that's my take on the Sims family drama. Let's jump over to Silo 17. I'm not saying this was my next least favorite area, but I think because it is so siloed, it is such a storyline to itself, let's go ahead and talk about it. So Solo, he needs help. He needs help. He does. He did save Juliette's life. She is very reasonable. Now, let me say, you guys know that I have been tough on angry, belligerent Juliette a lot of times. Let me say number one, I understand her point, and she says her point a million times. She tells Solo, why don't you do it? God, that is brilliant. That is wonderful. That is exactly right. Number two, she also is frustrated with him, and I recognize that myself in Juliette's frustration. Let me say, I'm always at this place. If you know me in real life or listen to some of my podcasts where Catfish really goes on one of his crazy tangents, I become Juliette and belligerent and angry and all of these things. So maybe I don't like when I see Juliette because it reminds me of negative things I do. But what the only saving grace I'll give myself is normally I kind of build up to these points. Normally I build up to anger. I'm not just like, there's no editor cutting to me immediately being angry. In my whole life, it's a long scene where I get frustrated with all this stuff. So Juliette is smart. She is right. She is 100% right. She's frustrated. But a part of me just thinks how much more I would enjoy these things if these two were working together. And it might be more enjoyable to see people solve problems. I'm going to use, I always go to some of the greatest shows, and Breaking Bad, if you've seen it, is one of the greatest shows. The main character is always solving problems using science, using his brain. And even if it occasionally is for nefarious purposes, it's fun to watch because it's like, oh, here's somebody smart tackling a problem. And Juliette is 100% smart. And Solo, for all his odd character swings, he's pretty smart too. He's researched this. He's like, if you come up too quickly, you're going to get the bends. These are two smart people. I might enjoy it more if they were working in concert with each other. I suppose the showrunners say that's not dramatic. We need these characters butting heads. So maybe if they ever do come together, it can feel earned. How do you feel? That's just my own take on it. It just drives me crazy. I did, once again, love Juliette. She has 100% right point. She's like, my silo could be exploding. Now, the trick is she doesn't know. Solo says, my silo, there was somebody who went to clean. He didn't clean. He walked away. Nobody ever saw him again. People went mad. She doesn't know that's what happened at her silo. She fears it. Solo knows that his silo is going to flood in months and he's going to die. So there is a bit of push and pull. I guess Solo's line to Juliette, how long are you going to stay mad at me? I wrote in the show notes, somebody might tell Solo that she's been angry with you all season long. So it's going to be quite a while. Long story short, Juliette's like, it's going to be easier just to do this and get it over with, and then I can get my helmet, I can get my cleaning suit on, and I can get back to my silo. What did you guys think of the effects? If you've watched any of these behind-the-scenes shots, you know that while the staircase is real and certain sides of the silo are real, a lot of the silo is just CGI, when there's a wide shot from a stairwell. And this shot of her going down into the water, I'm assuming this is almost all CGI. I thought at times, boy, this looks brilliant. At other times, I thought, maybe that looks like cheap. But either way, it was, this is a big investment of going down and creating a underwater silo. And then, boy, we need Catfish here for this because I pointed this out before. It sure feels like there are camera angles where it feels like somebody is watching. They're up high. And it's like looking down at our heroes and you're like, why is it showing this camera angle? Is it implying somebody is watching? And, we will never know. They've come up with a fun system to communicate. There's a little bell. Love that. Makes a lot of sense. Juliette having weight in her boots that Solo made for her. Wonderful. Again, this underwater sequence, I felt like the quick cutting kind of took away maybe a bit of the tension where if you sat with it a long time and you just realized how deep she's gone, how far she has to travel with this power cable. I think it could have ratcheted up the tension for me, but I don't really know. That's just my idea. Again, Juliette is so competent, this beginning part makes it look easy. It's as simple as plug it in, flip the switch, It was red, now it's green. This is wonderful. She goes back, she rings the bell to be pulled up, and then, oh my God, her elevator ride drops down into the distance. It's like, oh no. Once again, she's a smart person. She takes off her weighted boots and she starts coming up too fast. And of course, we've all been prepped by the Bens and by our buddy Solo teaching us scuba diving 101. Like, oh no, she is in deep trouble. But she doesn't have oxygen, apparently. She is flying up the rope. She is so far down. She finally breaks the surface, and it is a release of tension. She goes to look for Solo, and Solo is no mo. He is no more around. Has he gone nuts? Did he suddenly think Juliette had said he wasn't Solo? He's head of IT and gone nuts and maybe injured himself with that axe? Or, once again, is somebody watching? The final cut shot makes it look like somebody is watching. It does look like there's blood everywhere. What do you guys think? If you've read the books, leave the comments, but maybe put spoiler at the front of them. If you haven't read the books, what do you think is going to happen? This is Silo 17 is starting, hopefully you feel this way, starting to feel tension. For those of you who have written in comments and said, Juliette and Solo, it's too independent. It's so removed from all the action in 18, you don't like it. Or those of you who are like, I only like Rebecca Ferguson. The stuff back in Silo 18 without her stinks. Let me know. This is a wonderful debate. I think it was pretty good in this episode. I'd say about an 8 out of 10, but I wouldn't go to almost grade a 9 or grade a 10 out of 10. But some of you did, so hey, let me know. Let's jump now to Walker's story. So we're jumping back to our original Silo, which is Silo 18. Walker misses her woman. This is a December romance that possibly could be reignited. The Golden Bachelorette, if you will. Walker, first time we really see her, she's in some of the scenes with the gunpowder and the rocket launch, but she's back in her shop. She pulls out a drawing, a picture of Carla. Literally, this may not be how agoraphobia really reacts, but Walker has been kind of kicked in the pants in some ways. The strange world she's in has forced her to look at her choices and realize what she's going to do. She does obviously love Carla. Maybe she's always loved Carla, even when they split up. And so she's finally, has a movement, something greater than herself. So she goes to see Sheriff Billings and Deputy Hank, and she's like, tell me, where is Carla? Where's Carla McLean? Once again is her name. And Billings says, I was a judicial raider, but if she's in the judicial fortress, there's nothing you can do. It's over. And Walker's like, send a message. And as we know, the radios are off. The email communication between levels is off. Everything's down. We cut back to Walker in her shop. And what do you guys think? What is this setting up? Obviously, Walker, like Juliette, is incredibly intelligent. She reconnects her camera, lets the evil watchers see her in her shop, then disconnects it. That's a message in itself. Is that all she needed? Is that a message of, hey, I will play ball if you get me Carla? Somebody who definitely wants her to play ball is Bernard. Now, briefly, let's talk about, the stakes. I always talk about how you've got to raise the stakes. Part of me is like, war? Where? Give me a war because the stakes get raised. Obviously, there are a lot of stakes everywhere in this show, but these are emotional stakes between Walker and Carla. Is that enough? Are you hooked? Are you drawn in? What do you think? I think I do realize, in this episode, I think made me realize I am intrigued by this. I am drawn to it, but I kind of want to know more. Let's see more, show. Give it to us. I'm going to pause right now because Catfish has just texted me while I'm reading this. So Catfish is watching the show. He says, I'm chilling right now and watching. And the Bernard bro in me cheered when Carla tried to make an information exchange and Bernard said no and walked the F out. #hero. So that's Catfish's main note so far. He loves that. That is our buddy Catfish going strong as he would. So hey, let's go to Bernard's story then. Sure. You know what? No. Well, okay, let's go to the down deep first. Let's go to the down deep And that's because that storyline, one flows to another. It starts off with Shirely, Knox, and the rebellion. Knox goes to see his buddy Mark, who hands him what I thought was a bomb at first, but it's the rocket. And Knox pretends like he's going to drop it. Hashtag not cool. And Mark and his team have more gunpowder. This is the Chekhov gunpowder I mentioned earlier. But they won't tell Knox where it is, where they keep the rest. Probably smart, but don't you think if you're setting up a Chekhov's gunpowder, it's going to go off sooner or later? The part that maybe I'm lost in this, Shirley and Teddy are in the cafeteria. Everybody in the Down Deep is coming and dropping off folders, and Shirley tells this guy, listen, we're mechanical. We make a little gold go a long way. What exactly were they dropping off? It wasn't food, certainly. What were they doing? If I'm clueless, please tell me I'm clueless. I'm always looking down and making notes, so I couldn't tell. Now, Knox, he marches this bomb to Walker, center of the silo. Everybody in the Down Deep is really shook. This is tense. Martha lights the fuse. You're like, oh, here we go. We want to go to the fireworks factory. This is literally the fireworks factory we're going to. They give us a little fake off like, oh boy, the fuse died, what a dud. But it rises to the top. It unleashes a parachute. Then the parachute opens a door on all sides and spits out the sheets of paper with their message. Whew. After this, Shirley and Knox, they kill the power to the silo. The tension is rising. This is crazy. Ooh, snap. Shirley tells Knox that, hey, listen, we're in this fight alone, and we need a backup plan. Knox, she says they're alone, but this is after they've asked the rest of the silo for help, so, and they don't have any communication to know if they're in it together. It feels like this romantic flirting, this, hey, maybe not romance, let's just sexually be attracted to each other. I kind of like it, and they want to focus on their locked lips from episode 6. But this time, Hank is the wet blanket. He comes in and he's like, listen, dude, the listeners have got orders for people to kill you. And that brings us to Billings and Hank and their side quest of the week. I love Hank. I pretty much love Billings. But this whole season, these guys have been on a side quest. They should be the power. Billings is the silo sheriff. Hank is a deputy in the Down Deep. But they get what I can only call scraps of storylines that aren't as fun or exciting. So Billings and Hanks are pulling in Knox and Shirley and said, look, people are trying to kill you. Hide in this jail cell where we can protect you. I thought it was a ridiculous side quest throw on. We got to figure out who poisoned the food. And you're right, you do need to figure out who poisoned the food. But even before the reveal of who it was, it did feel like this is a minor quest in a video game. This isn't a battle with the big boss. Hank has brought in a suspect, Martin. Hank wants to know who did it. We had Gen X Cat Mom talking about good cop, bad cop. I'm ready for these guys to play hardball. Hank's hardball, not so hard. He's saying, Martin, I'll tell everybody you're a judicial rat if you don't give it up. Martin can only reveal how the messages are being delivered. All right, fine, sure. Hank later goes to see Frances, and if I'm paying attention, I'm pretty sure Frances is Patrick Kennedy, fugitive Patrick Kennedy's niece. And Patrick Kennedy's there being taken care of by Billings' wife, who's got her, infant child with her. And so Hank then goes to see Knox and Shirley, and they're all together later in the deputy station trying to talk about who could it be? Who could it be? Billings' wife shows up and says, hey, you've got even more trouble. The mob is attacking the cafeteria worker, the food worker, Maeve. Hank, his moment to shine. Do-do-do-do, glow up. Do-do-do-do, Hank in charge. Do-do-do-do-do. Hank is marching out. He's figured it out, and he's solving this problem in the most Hank way. He's like, listen, your mom needs meds. They've blackmailed you to do it. In the end, you prevented anybody from eating it. You're the hero. You're the best. We won't kill you. Knox tells Maeve, hey, you're going to get a tough job to do. But that's what those are the jobs we have. Tough jobs. These are the jobs that only the Down Deep are willing to do. And those migrants from the up top aren't willing to do them. So Maeve is going to have a new job. The Who Poisoned the Food storyline is done. It got characters to have something to do for a bit of time. The end. So I'm really happy Hank had his moment to shine. I'm growing to like Knox and Shirley's flirting, but still, it can only get me so far in the drama scale. Let's get to, I'm not on Team Bernard, but when it comes to drama, Bernard knows what he's doing. Bernard Bros, this is your episode to shine. It begins with a holy smokes, and let's just talk about it. Bernard, it feels like, to me, it's like, is he really making Lukas his shadow? But he's letting Lukas go the full 9 yards because he wants this Salvador Quinn message known. And he takes us, the audience, and Lukas for a wonderful info dump of holy smokes. Guess what? Solo won't let us in his vault. We're seeing the original Silo's vault. This is awesome. They come into this thing that the show calls the algorithm room. That's the big room with the white kind of steps on all sides. And that's where the algorithm voice is. The algorithm can talk. It says, verified. Welcome, Lukas Kyle. Whoa, WTF. We are in sci-fi, baby. If you didn't think we were in sci-fi, holy smokes, this is some fun sci-fi stuff. Bernard is like, guess what, buddy? You get living quarters, and we didn't go in there, but they sure look sharp. Plus, you get to familiarize yourself with the legacy. The food is all right. The bed is comfortable. But the legacy, behind, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Pay attention to the awesome library that is the legacy. A library with possibly hardwood floors. Imagine if you lived in a concrete silo all these years and you're in a room with what looked like hardwood floors. Holy smokes. Bernard describes it as a room with the whole of human history, knowledge, and art. Oh, snap. More books than you can imagine are stored on this incredible device called an iPad. And if you are dealing with what looks like 1980s technology like Lukas, and Lukas did work in IT, this has to be incredible. Maybe we don't spend enough time with Lucas's, Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg shot of, whoa, this is incredible. I mean, this really is incredible. Now, Bernard talks about, he says, hey, Lukas, when I became a shadow, I looked for the questions, I looked to find everything I could. All I learned was that the silo was built 352 years ago. Now, we don't know when that was built, but let's say it was built this year in 2024. If you did that math, and of course I'm doing it off the top of my head, that's 2376. Hopefully I edited so you didn't see how long it took me to come up with that. And hopefully it's the right answer. Wow. Bernard says he couldn't learn anything else about why it was built or why they're here. If this legacy is supposed to contain all the answers to everything and all the knowledge, is that true, or is Bernard sandbagging? Maybe he's sandbagging because he's like, Lukas, the stars will have to wait. The only thing that matters is breaking the Salvador Quinn code. And Lukas is smart enough to realize it. And Bernard, once again, he loves curiosity. He loves this. Lukas says, whatever that answer to that, whatever's the answer that will allow us to unlock this code, it might be bigger than the rebellion itself. No, I keep saying war where. Is this really a rebellion or just a minor disagreement between floors? Either way, wow, so incredible. But all good times have to be ruined, especially when suddenly it's like, guess what, guys? Bad news. There is and I got it right here, a delta event in the central shaft. Thank you, algorithm. Bernard runs, or at least as I put it in the notes, as best as someone his age can run. He runs out. Oddmanson is there, hashtag not helpful. I don't know what, but it smells like gunpowder. Boy, this guy, the sharpest tool in the shed. Bernard grabs one of these sheets of paper. Here's what it reads. It reads, IT lies to us. Mechanical wants the truth. What happened to Juliette? How did Meadows really die? What is IT hiding? Look and see. Look and see. Come and see. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, remember that? We hear, the masses, or at least two of the masses, call out, hey, Why is power still on IT when Knox and Shirley killed all the power? Tell us the truth. Uh-oh. And then Bernard runs, once again, old man runs back into the IT offices. We have this scene which Catfish mentioned in his notes where Bernard takes Carla's blindfold off. Carla's not talking. She doesn't want to talk to middleman. She wants to talk to the big cheese. But Bernard, it's simple. Where's the gunpowder? Not going to tell me? All right. Later, loser. Ooh, ice cold. I love it. What do you guys think of Bernard's news conference where he tells every member of the sheriff and deputy crew, including a secretary, like Secretary Sandy, he's like, listen, why did it look like IT had power on? Because this is a false flag operation. Mechanical is making us look bad. Worse, Deputy Billings is being held captive in the down deep, and they're forcing him to say lies over the radio. Now, Secretary Sandy, you know she was frustrated with Juliette in season 1, so I love her. She confronts Bernard, and she's like, hey, what's going on? What about these messages? Bernard is not going to hear it. Everything bad is from Mechanical, and everything with the rebellion, deputy stations you don't have to worry about. Judicial is taking over. You know, we talk about Bernard so much, and he's so delicious. Show watchers, book readers, non-book readers, what do you think of Bernard's actions? Do they make sense? Once again, think of the big picture. Bernard knows that he's been told in a failed cleaning, prepare for war. If anybody opens that silo and those toxins outside get in, his silo is dead. 10,000 people in his silo are dead. Would you do more? Would you be more of an authoritarianism? What would you do to prevent this? He wants this warrant. He wants to, is that the right move? Is it worth the look to even pretend like, hey, this is orderly and this makes sense? Or should you just say, to hell with it? It ends with the office. Bernard is drinking alone. The best Bernard, he's drinking alone in his office, getting lit on liquor. When Amundsen comes in and mentions about how Walker turned on his camera, Bernard now knows that Walker and Carla, they're not just evil down deepers and rebels. They have a personal connection, which maybe he can use. Ha 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 ha. Lukas, I meant to come in that Lukas, to wrap up the Lukas story, Lukas has gotten good with the iPad, and he comes in and he's like, hey, this is a code which points to pages in a book. Oh, snap. It's the Wizard of Oz that Judge Meadows had. Fun twist. That's the episode. What do you think? I went 8 out of 10. I think I could go higher. I think I could go lower. Either way, all sorts of craziness. Let me know what you think. Hey, I've talked too much. You're sick of my voice. I'm sick of my voice. Let's go to our musical expert, our musical theorist and genius on the keyboards, Double M Matt Murdock, with his musical analysis of episode 7, and he's going to be talking about rhythmic tension.
So I got to be honest here, there hasn't been a whole lot to talk about with this season of Silo that we hadn't kind of already addressed in the last season. Even the tension with Juliette in the water this week is something that really isn't all that varied from everything else that we've seen in the past 2 seasons. Some different chords are used, but it's essentially the same principle. So as long as we're going to be talking about the same principle, I would like to address something that I feel is very effective in terms of creating tension. And that is a running line that even when there's just like slow pads and minor chords going on to indicate darkness, you'll sometimes hear little runs like this. Now, there are a couple of reasons why this is effective. First of all, it runs along the minor scale, which indicates darkness. Minor always feels darker than major. The second thing is that where the line stops at the top and then starts to repeat from the bottom is the 4th scale degree. As humans, we tend to feel more resolution if something goes from the 5th scale degree to the 1st scale degree. But with the 4th scale degree, it feels incomplete. In fact, the 4th scale degree is what makes a dominant 5 chord feel like it really needs to go home to the 1 chord. And so, even though the line is symmetrical, meaning that it's dividable we can divide it in halves. We tend to like that kind of rhythm as human beings. Harmonically, it feels off. It feels like it needs to go further, and it doesn't, and just starts over. And that, along with the fact that it just constantly repeats, is what builds tension for us. If it sounded like this, that doesn't feel nearly as tense as this. And again, let me remind you that this is the fastest moving part. When we start to subdivide our beats into faster moving parts, we generate tension also. Just the constant flow going up to the 4, a place where it feels like it's not resolved, generates more and more tension. I'm not sure if you're familiar with something called the shepherd tone, where something just kind of goes back to where it starts, but it feels like it's continuously moving down or continuously moving up. These kinds of lines kind of create a shepherd rhythm in a way. It's just continually perpetuating itself, and even though the notes are exactly the same, it feels like it's building. And that's one of the ways that Atlee creates a lot of tension during an otherwise not really all that exciting score. This has been Matt. Back to Bubba and Catfish.
All right, now let's get to your feedback. Once again, your feedback is about podcasts with Catfish, not me, so feel free to, tell me it's not fun without Catfish. I agree with you. Or, if you want to sub for Catfish, let me know. Tom Davey on YouTube said, "This is the best Silo breakdown podcast, hands down. Thank you so much." Jules said, "I've tried watching others. This is the only one that's fun." Hey, we try to be fun. On my own, yeah, it's a party for one right now, but hopefully it's fun. Shawnee Caulfield wrote, "Great video, love your vibe, and just subscribe. Thank you so much." And Masem Timui, I mispronounced it, Masem, I apologize, but they wrote, "Your review was something else. Thank you." Oh, thank you so much. A longtime loyal listener and also occasional co-host here on Double PHQ, Holly Huntpants, who's at Huntpants on Instagram, said, "I'm enjoying Silo Season 2 way more than you guys are and loving the podcast like always." Ooh, Holly, we know you like Severance, and we'll talk about the Severance pod in a bit. So, hey, maybe you'll sub in for me if I'm too busy, or Catfish if he's too busy. Let us know. Sutton Daniels, boy, a true person who always gives great feedback. They wrote, "I love your content, and I call myself a double L." Wait, a loyal listener. Oh, okay. Sayali, and Sayali, if I'm mispronouncing that, once again, tell me I'm a moron, then let me fix it. "For some reason, I have more excitement about listening to the breakdown of the episode by you guys than excitement about watching the episode itself." Now, that is definitely wrong. Let me say that maybe we'll be, how can we make ourselves less fun? Well, we got rid of Catfish. That makes it less fun. Okay. Zombie Italian wrote, "I did notice in Season 2, Episode 1, now this is about the Silo 17 rebellion that ended up with them all dead outside. Zombie Italian wrote, "The sheriff's son, when he delivered the message to his dad, his mother mentioned Timmy talked him into it. And so was Timmy the son, or was Timmy somebody who talked their son into it?" And Zombie Italian writes, "That's something we should be thinking about." Okay, I will. Trouble Follow wrote, "Lukas becoming Bernard's shadow just to solve a code is surprising." Ooh, Trouble Follows, you always write good feedback, and I agree. Boy, I'm going to mispronounce another name. Marathaseyu says, "I'm a double L. Lukas Lackey." Okay, here we go. Sun Sin wrote, "This season of Silo should end with the two silos coming together and setting up Season 3. That's a pretty good. Sun Sin, are you one of the producers? You're not going to want to watch my rant in the book section. Bulletproof wrote, "Billings has no symptoms of the syndrome anymore because for the first time he took control of a situation instead of being controlled. So you moron podcast hosts, there's no magic involved, and the herbs weren't the reason for him not having syndrome symptoms either." Well, Bulletproof, that's what I thought, but this show makes us question everything, including herbs. We got like a handful of comments about my bloodlust for action and violence. Hobo Deluxe 07 wrote, Bubba needs to keep his bloodlust in check. Odmondson made the right call by retreating. I love that the silo residents, even the raiders, don't want to fight unless they have to. Okay, Hobo Deluxe, you are wonderful for that. Now, Dylan Clark sided with me. Dylan Clark wrote, I am so disappointed there wasn't a real battle. And then Tim's Retro Corner. Boy, everybody in this is a great listener. We love all your feedback. Keep giving it. Tim wrote, I was a bit disappointed by the fighting, and he put fighting in quotes, on the staircase. He felt it was both anticlimactic and kind of repetitive of what we've been seeing for weeks. Tim's Retro Corner continued, I had a bit of get on with it vibe, wanting to get back to the Juliette plot. Well, Tim, write us and let us know if you liked the Juliette plot this week. And we had a whole bunch of ratings for episode 6. Enoch Robinson wrote, Odmondson's attempt to kill Knox by throwing the winch down after him backfired when the engineers used their quote mechanical advantage to pull down the barricade. He gave episode 6 7 triple P's out of 10. Wait, triple P's? What'd you write? Oh, prohibited pulley payback. Very good. Get Mike, another person. Great feedback. He loved episode 6. He gave it a solid 9 out of 10 double Ks. What, double Ks? Clever Knoxes. Wait, you're pulling a catfish there. Get Mike. I love it. Get Mike continues, I'm really interested in what Camille is up to, and Lucas becoming Bernard Shadows is unexpected. Knox was very clever in episode 6 with his barricade plan, and Get Mike was proud of Knox. Okay. I'm going to say this just now to say everybody going forward. Everybody is brilliant. No Pico Jake wrote, I'm giving episode 6 8 out of 10 triple M's. Wait, triple M's? Morning Meadows monologue. Oh boy, for sure. Geez, Billings finally seeing the light. I thought he was about to off Patrick Kennedy. Woohoo, that would have been violence. And you know my bloodlust. Lucas is the big winner when you talk about a promotion. From the mines to data mining. Mama Sims avoiding the Bernard beatdown once again. She is slick so far. Solo is about to take a dark turn. Well, the show took a dark turn for Solo in this episode. No Pico Jake continues, still Team Bernard for now. DV gives us plenty of great comments. DV writes, I enjoyed episode 6. Most storylines made nice progress. I would have loved a scene with Solo growing mushrooms and extracting antibiotics out of them, though. This show, don't write it out. Wayne Rogers, another one. Oh, Jacob Ignacio. I love all these people. Wayne Rogers wrote, my favorite episode so far, and that's episode 6. He said, Camille Sims, a great face-off with Bernard. I'm beginning to like Camille. Every move she has made so far has benefited the mechanical and fought Bernard for sure. Bernard and Billings, two guys trying so hard to live by their letter of the law, and they're finding it very difficult to navigate the turbulent waters they're in. Ooh, speaking of turbulent waters, Juliette, right? Jacob said, I gave episode 6 an incomplete. It was a bad and messy 2.5-ton bag of suspension of disbelief. Why is Bernard still alive? He's a one-man show. They give the impression that everybody in his silo is against him. All you need is maybe 2 to 3 guys, and then Sims can take charge. It's that simple. Ignacio gave episode 6 a 6.8, but he said our podcast is a 10.10. Way, thank you, Ignacio. Keep drinking. Episode 6 has great moments like Bernard taking Lucas as his shadow and Dr. Nichols and Walker talking and Jules waking up. But I don't enjoy an entire episode about moving a barricade just 10 floors up. Ignacio says, though, I frigging like Hank. I'm Team Hank all the way. Ignacio, you and me, we're starting Team Hank. Deputy Hank, let's go. No interleaving. Another brilliant person said episode 6, 8 out of 10. It's clear that the design of this 50 silo bunker system is highly illogical. The bunkers are neither independent nor strategically placed. They lack natural camouflage. They lack geological stability like granite or limestone foundations. They lack access to fresh water, alternate energy sources. Oh boy, he goes on. This is brilliant. 8 out of 10. You still like the episode, though, and they're leaving. We're going to put you in charge. We're going to have you, you know what? Come in, be a shadow. You're going to go into the algorithm room. Ha ha ha. Now, let's got a couple of feedbacks about the Sims backstory and about, wait a minute, he was never a judicial raider. Mr. Marvel, another great person for comments, wrote, my guess is that Sims was a monitor and he showed enough skill to be promoted. With Judicial, you do have the raiders and then the monitors or the watchers. So one is intelligence and the other is ground force. And they're two separate jobs, right? Perhaps that's why Sims' replacement isn't as good, is because he was a raider on the ground. Love it, Mr. Marvel. Zach wrote, I think it makes sense that Sims wasn't a raider because, if I'm not mistaken, his father was in the same position. So his father was probably, in charge of the raiders too. I think that makes sense. His father was able to get a person transferred who was picking his son. Love it. We're going to end the non-book talk section of the podcast talking about the Severance podcast, which currently doesn't exist and may not exist. But Zephyrcat, someone, chef's kiss, I love Zephyrcat's comments. They wrote, hey, Bubba, put me in the camp of pretty please with sugar on top to Severance. To hear my fave podcasters discuss one of my fave shows would be the best. And you could easily adapt it from your other formats. A grief's beef equals who's being sent to the break room. A good grief is who deserves a wellness session. A judicial debate means who's meeting with the board, etc. I can already hear you guys in my head, LOL. Now, hey, the grief beef and the good grief are from our coverage of The Mandalorian on the Parsec Passion Podcast feed. Zephyrcat, you are almost convincing me. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Marathaseyu wrote, yes, on the Severance podcast, 4 exclamation parts. Thank you, Catfish, for pushing my agenda further. I Optimus Prime wrote, okay, we definitely want a Severance podcast. And Hunt Pants, the true hero on Instagram, wrote, I'm begging you, all caps, begging to do a Severance podcast. I'll even join you if hosts are needed. That is probably going to be true, Holly. Pay attention. Hey, I don't know how long I've talked. It's probably too long by myself. I hope I haven't driven you crazy. But if you enjoy this podcast and miss our buddy Catfish, write him on social media, G to the man. That's GEETOTHEMAN on Instagram and Blue Sky, or write us at PHQ on every social media platform, Facebook.com/PHQ. On YouTube, give us those comments. Give us those likes, subscribe. We're so close. The next episode is episode 8, and we'll be talking about that next week.